I know. What kind of representation can you offer me? Have you had that kind of feedback?
Only from my opponent.
Only from your opponent.
He tried to use my political inexperience
as
a compelling reason why a person shouldn't vote for me. But
right.
when you look at the other characteristics that I bring as opposed, there's really no comparison there.
Yes, and youth has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Youth has absolutely nothing to
right.
do with it.
Well said, Nicholas. And in terms of getting Barbados back on a solid trajectory in terms of its development and growth, do you have any ideas or any plans for that? I mean, because you have to start thinking about getting into Parliament now, getting into the House, and even being a minister. So by now I would imagine that you'll be thinking about all these things. Have you been thinking about that vision, that wide macro vision for Barbados' development?
Well, I would have thought I would have discussed that with many of our colleagues and our ministers who are more able and more capable. I mean, who have the political experience. I look at them and that they would be able then to implement a lot of these policies, obviously within consultation with a lot of the newer candidates, because we bring different ideas.
Right.
So I have the support of my colleagues in the Democratic Labour Party. Most of the members, well, all of the members have been very warm and welcoming to us. I speak not only for myself, but I can say that for my other colleagues in Rodney and Henderson, the three of us that we came in together. We've been really welcomed by the Democratic Labour Party family.
That's really great to hear. So what kind of representation you hope to offer the people of St. Michael East? Just tell them they might be streaming right now, they might be listening to you. What kind of representation you hope to offer them?
I would first say active representation. Not representation that is absent. I will be there. I will be honest and open in all of my deliberations with the constituents of St. Michael East. I would also be very confidential because that is something that is lacking, especially these current member for St. Michael East. I'd be very confidential with my constituents. I'm very open with them.
Right, okay. Now, growing up in Licorice Village, and I go back to that, were you ever told you will never amount to anything, you will never become anything, you haven't got a chance to succeed? Could you respond to that in a way that would tell other young people who are watching you that it doesn't matter where you come from, as long as you have drive, as long as you have ambition, and God on your side, that you can become a success? Respond to that.
Well, certainly. I mean, I've never had those comments attributed to me, especially growing up in Licorice Village, because on one fond thing that I remember distinctly is that many a times we had the older persons that would really say, well, Nicholas, we see great potential in you, and tonight, I have to give credit to persons like Robert Schroeder, who would have seen me and Bailey, who would have seen a lot of potential, not only in myself, but in many of us.
Yes.
And through sports. We were able then to excel and to develop ourselves to the individuals we are. So certainly, we can aspire irrespective of where we come from in society.
Who were some of the male politicians growing up over the years that you would have admired?
I would say, as a youngster, I've always heard about Don Blackman. We wouldn't have, met him, personally, but I've always heard of the revered speaker of Don Blackman and all the good works that he would have done. And, he's a household name in St. Michael East, and certainly across.
So from very early, you had some inkling or some love for politics. I remember I would be glued to the TV. At that time, we had a black and white TV. And every time the people I would call them the people, not understanding full well that it was Parliament and they were debating perhaps the estimates or even discussing the budget. And I'd be so fascinated with the speakers. Were you like that? Were you glued to the TV? Were you watching the debates?
Not really glued to the TV and watching the debates, but I've always found myself in a role, in a leadership role. I mean, be it at primary school, I was the deputy head boy at primary school, went on to be deputy head boy at the Alleyne School and president of the Students' Council and Boys Motivational Committee. So I've always found myself in the leadership role and only represented people as well.
And were you always surrounded with older people? Because you strike me as somebody who have a good rapport with older people.
Well, most of my years I would have spent with older persons.
Right. So that would have helped you.
That would have helped me tremendously.
Yeah, contributed to your development. All right. Now, we're hearing a lot about, let's focus in on the sewage issue. I don't know, directly does not impact because it's not in your constituency. Now, if you were the representative for that constituency, how would you want to treat with that problem we have down there in Hastings on the south coast?
I mean, well, it doesn't affect my constituency directly. I mean, it affects Barbados.
That's right.
You know, so by extension, it affects me as well. You know, and I think Minister Boyce have handled it pretty well. He is the Minister of Health, and I know that he's been meeting with the constituents of that Christchurch South area. I think that he would have handled that situation pretty well.
So is there anything you would want to say to Barbadians with respect to that situation? Because we would have gotten some negative press abroad, we would have gotten some even negative press here. What would you want to say as a positive comment to what has been happening on the South? Now, I am well aware that it wasn't necessarily caused by the politicians, so to speak, and therefore, is there anything that you could say to Barbadians to let them know that this is a problem that concerns all of us, and therefore we need to treat it as such, but being mindful that Barbados' reputation is foremost important because we depend on tourism. Is there anything you'd want to say in that regard?
Well, I would say certainly it's not a Barbados Labour Party problem. It's not a Democratic Labour Party problem. It's a problem that affects Barbados. You know, and brand Barbados must be protected at all costs. You know, so we must seek in all our endeavours that we promote our island rather than to pull it down and to tear it down. You know, so I would encourage all Barbadians to do that. And
it's a question that, in my view, would mostly impact on women, would deter us from entering politics. The kind of divisive, the kind of quote-unquote nastiness, so to speak, that you have popping up from time to time on the campaign trail and so on. Has that daunted you in any way? Do you feel a sense that this needs to be stamped out, this kind of behavior, this kind of quote-unquote nastiness on the political trail, on the campaign? Do you think that's something that we can do without in our political activities?
Well, certainly, you know, I think it has no place in politics. I mean, politics is about the people and, you know, and not people's personal lives and stuff like that. So persons now want to hear what you're going to do. People don't want to hear that, as you call it, the nastiness and the low talk. And, you know, we don't need that anymore. And I think that that's something that needs to be gone from our political environment.
That's right. Yeah. And what about this, you know, I keep thinking how we need a new level of politics and we need to raise the bar. In terms of the corned beef and biscuit politics, where people are expected to give, or in fact, they're telling you, pay me if you want me to vote for you. How do you feel about that kind of progression in our politics?
Well, I can say certainly I have not experienced that as yet in my canvassing. As I say, and I'm very happy that, you know, that the message that I bring, people are buying into the message. You know, I'm not promising anything.
Right.
You know, I'm being honest and upfront with individuals, and persons are gaining interest, and people are saying, Nicholas, you know, we like what you're bringing. You know, so I haven't been said or been told, well, Nicholas, you need to give me $200. I've never encountered that. Excellent. You know, in my canvas.
Well, I'm seeing this signal. We got to wrap up. So it's over to you. Your parting words, and we'll close.
I would say to Barbadians tonight that the Democratic Labour Party, we've always been for the people. And we've always been a party of the people. And I ask that you will continue to stick with us. You know, now is the time that we need the Democratic Labour Party in Barbados. So I say to you tonight to stick with us and give us your vote. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Candidate Speaks. You've heard from two promising candidates. You've heard from Dave Cumberbatch representing St. Peter, and you've